Since the JPEG XS Technical Activity Group covered both the creation of the TRs, a file exchange, and the VidTrans demonstration that we did this week, I've got sort of a longer presentation that handles all of that, but I want to focus on the VidTrans demonstration. So I'll just move through the appropriate slides. I covered the JPEG XS overview on my presentation on Tuesday. So in this group, we're going to really focus on the document status and the VidTrans demo, which I think are the most important points. So first on the documentation, the TR07 and TR08, actually two separate documents. The first one utilizes what's very typical in wide area transport using SMPTE 2022 and MPEG-2 TS. That's what's used for JPEG 2000, for H.264, HEVC. So that's the format for wide area transportation of JPEG XS. And then the second document, TR08, uses 211022 for the JPEG XS, which is specifically just the video component. So I've got a couple of slides here that talk a little bit about what our objective was for the documents. These documents, especially on the TR08 side, were expanded to include wide color gamut and HDR, and also some other video formats that are more typical in the IPMX area, which includes 444 sampling, 8-bit, 12-bit depths, and both RGB as well as color difference applications. So we put those together in the capability sets, which we'll go over in a little bit, and also we liaise with some of the other standards bodies because we found some inconsistencies in the documents that we were referencing. So we worked with the IETF, with ISO IEC. We had members on our team that were in those groups, so we were able to liaise with them and make some changes to their documents. The middle bullet there, there is a 1K-1 level now in the JPEG documents, and a sub-level of 4BPP, which weren't there when we started. Those were changes that we were able to initiate in those documents because we use them in our recommendation. So we published TR07 and 08, I think, back in 21, and we just published revisions of those in April. They're on the VSF website. Those are the most recent versions, so I urge you to take a look at those. And that's what we were demonstrating in the demonstration downstairs this week. So there were a few changes. I'm not going to go through too much detail on these, but there were a few changes from the original documents to the revised documents, and that's important. We did see some challenges with that as we went through the demonstration, because not all of the implementations that were demonstrated were current to the revisions, and the revisions have been sort of fluid, so I completely understand that. So demonstration, we had 8 participants and two folks that helped us with infrastructure switching and PTP, which was great. So I really want to thank all those that participated. People put a lot of work into this, and I certainly appreciate that. This was what we had down in the exhibit hall. So you see that for TR08, we had more participation, so a number of companies there, and fewer folks on the TR07 side. And they were all connected to a central switch that Arista provided, and Pakistan provided a PTP generator, which was fed over to the Arista switch and allowed all of the TR08 participants to use PTP for their streams. So we did we connected to participants with 1 gig, 10 gig, and 100 gig. So there was a variety of different connection speeds, I think, which was good for the demonstration. We used 1080p video, and TR07 was done with video and 2 channels of audio. TR08 was just the video stream. It's 1080p, 1920, 59.422 video content, standard dynamic range. This was the JPEG XS high 444 profile, 2K-1 level, sub-level, 4 bits per pixel. That's probably in the 250 to 300 megabit range for the video compression. Yeah, I showed this the other day. This is the actual capability set table that's in the TR. That's the capability set 5A, interop point 5A for TR07, and interop point 5A for TR08. That's what we had demonstrated. And just a quick comment on the results. And remember, there was no previous workshop on this. We did do a file exchange over the last few months. So we saw 3 out of the 9 possible cases for TR07 successfully demonstrated, and 25 of 29 for TR08. So I'd consider that pretty successful. Usually it takes us 3 or 4 days in a workshop prior to VidTrans to get to this type of point. So based on doing this at a show with a lot of interruptions, I think that was great. There was one participant that only had 4K, so that wasn't received by anyone. But anyway, I think that was reasonably successful, and certainly I believe that the implementations that will hit the market will be interoperable and will follow the TRs. So my last slide, I just want to talk about where the activity group is. So the JPEG XS Activity Group has completed all of its deliverables per the activity group form. So we've done the TRs are finished, the file exchange finished, the live demonstration is finished. So that group is probably going to be closed. However, upcoming, I just wanted to mention this, there is a JTNM test event, August 22nd through 27th in Germany. So that is something that folks could participate with. And the bottom point is important. So VSF members, any new suggestion from work is welcome. Okay, so thank you. And
John, I had a question.
Yep.
So do you anticipate that there will be a public repository of any sort of reference files or interop criteria? I know we chose not to do that in the past with things like TR1.
That would be a question for the VSF board. So, and I've mentioned this before, that all of the content that we have from the file exchange is the property of the folks that created the files. It's not the VSF. So we don't hold those for an extended period of time. So if folks wanted to get a hold of that, they'd have to contact those companies directly. The VSF board could decide to do something later if they had participants that really wanted to do that. That's a question for the board.
Yeah, I mean, I would just like to throw out there that, you know, one of the real values of open standards and open, community is having something to test against. Yeah, you might say like a reference file, right? Exactly.
And that could be something. We've got to decide to do that and have people that maintain it, make sure it's, and go through that. That, like I said, suggestions are welcome. Maybe if that's a suggestion for the VSF, hey, we'd like you to have some reference files for some of these TRs, it might be a good idea.
Yeah, so put me in that category of people that would like to see that. So,
okay. Thank you.
Yeah, a couple of things, John. First of all, I do think that there's merit to that, how we would maintain that, how we would deal with the ownership of it, how we would deal with that some vendor says, well, this only represented where we were at a particular point in time, and we don't really want that public. There are things to be worked out, right?
Yeah,
But-
yeah, it's not a simple thing, right?
Right, but Wes does have a very good point that, if we could scrub something and make it agnostic, so it couldn't be identified as coming from a particular vendor and saying this is an example at a given time or whatever, it does give somebody an opportunity to try to come along and try to consume that and whatever. So, and I have heard that Wes's same request from some other places too. So at the tested event, I've been going so crazy back and forth, even though nominally I should know this, I don't. Do you know at this point what Evgen is thinking in relation to JPEG XS and the JT&M tested event in August?
Well, I think they've indicated the suite of 2110 signals that they'll look at. So I believe that they would, 2110-22 is TR08. So I think that would be included. And of course, they have security and NMOS and kind of the whole suite. We just did RTP file exchange, or RTP stream sending and receiving here, right? But in order to have a complete implementation, you need some of those other pieces, and they will be testing that. So
right. Now Jack's over here going,
I can tell you a little bit about it.
So Jack, go ahead. But my question, by the way, was specifically in relation to XS and
Yes.
dash 22. So
So the part of the test that we're going to be doing are 2110-22 compressed video. So it will include JPEG XS in particular. We are going to be doing the normal kind of 2110 test that we have in the past, and we're in the process of modifying the whole test plan. So if you're familiar with the test plan that was there before, it's going to be very similar to what was there, and we're making some modifications to it, but we are adding a particular section to it for not just dash 20, but dash 22. And there's going to be cybersecurity, there's going to be NMOS controller kinds of testing, and interacting with the nodes that are out there to see how all that
Sure.
works. So it's going to be very similar to what we've had, but we're going to add some additional pieces to it.
one last question I had for you, John, was there anything that came up in the last day or two that makes you think we need to take another iteration through the spec?
actually, no.
Oh, wow.
And I think we're in good shape there. Nothing came up, absolutely nothing. So
Wow. All right. Very
all good.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate
Okay.
the report. Thanks, John.
Yep.